What we'll need for this project today is rubbing alcohol, a pair of scissors if you have them, a pocket knife, a marker to mark where you're going to cut the can, a pin, a plastic container to store your system, the tin can, and a book that's about 1.5 inches thick. And I'm going to use this book to mark the can where I'm going to cut it. What I want to show you how to make is a self-contained alcohol stove. It's a neat little project. It's probably one of the best little alcohol stoves I've ever seen. It'll work out great in a pinch. You throw this in your 72-hour bag. Have enough alcohol probably to last you for cooking for a good 4 to 5 days, depending on the size of the container that you carry. But you can see this is made from one single can. What I did is I took another plastic container and stuck it inside of the plastic container. Of course, you can put your alcohol in there as well in a separate small bottle. But this container will protect the alcohol stove, being that it's made out of aluminum. It's pretty delicate. Delicate in the sense that it can be crushed. You want to put it in another container that's going to protect it from being crushed. With that being said, this project involves fire, and anytime you're dealing with fire, you want to be very careful and take the necessary safety precautions. You want to make sure that you've got a good controlled area. If this fuel spills, it's very hard to put out, seeing that it's alcohol. The only way you can really kind of put it out is by taking the oxygen out of the equation. Now, the type of alcohol that you want to use is as pure alcohol as you can get. The purest I could find in my area was 91% rubbing alcohol, and it works really well. You can find percentages as high as 96%, which I highly recommend. The higher the alcohol content, the better it is at burning and cooking things. So you want to make sure that you have a high alcohol content. Now, I've tried this with the 70 proof alcohol, the rubbing alcohol that you get at your stores. That doesn't work, the 70% or even the 50%. So it's got to be over 90%. The first thing we're going to do when we make this stove is, of course, remove the tab. You want to hold on to this tab because you can do some pretty cool things with these soda tabs, and it doesn't matter how you break this thing off. You want to hold on to that tab and try to recycle the material as much as you can. Now, the first part of this project is we're going to cut this portion of the lid off, and it's really important here that when we do this, that we are cutting up around the top portion of the fold or crease of the lid itself. And what I mean by the top portion of the fold or crease, this is the top of the crease up here. So you want to try to get in here as closely as you can when you're cutting around the lid to get that out of there. When you cut this open, you want to be very careful not to cut yourself. So very carefully wiggle your knife around and get it in there, and then you want to work your way up to that crease. And I'll see if I can show it to you on the camera here. So you can see here is where I stuck the knife in, and then over here is where I started to work up towards the lip or the edge of the crease. And you want to cut the lid off all the way around until the lid is completely out. Take your time, there's no rush. Slower you do it and the more patient you are, it seems that the better the project will turn out. Okay, so I've cut up around the lip, and you can see how much of the lid I cut off. So I didn't cut down inside here, I cut way up by the top of the lip here, and it makes for a good clean cut. Relatively few burrs on the inside here to really affect or cut anybody. The next thing we're going to do is cut the bottom portion of the can off. Now, to cut the bottom portion, it's relatively simple, but you want to make sure it's only about 1.5 inches. Yes, you could make it a little bit taller. Yes, that would fit more fuel, but you'll be surprised at how little fuel this uses. So I found that making this about 1.5 inches is sufficient enough, and it gives you the best results. So what I like to use when I do something like that is I'll take a book, and the back of the book is about my binding's about 1.5 inches right here, and I'll just place the can here up against the back of the book. I'll get a Sharpie out, and boy, a lot of product placement. And you just place your marker down on the edge of the book. You don't want to obviously mark the book itself, but we do want to mark the can. You just spin the can around, and you'll see that I have, when I'm done, a nice straight line that I can cut. As you can see right here, nice and straight line all the way around, and that gives me the opportunity to cut this nice and straight. Again, the straighter you have this, the better off you're going to be. The more perfect this is, the better it's going to burn for you, the more efficient it's going to burn for you. And you're going to find that we're going to be creating combustion chambers, so we've got to be relatively accurate. Now, with the cutting of this, you're just going to take your knife and score it on the line, score the can, that is, on the line. It's just starting to go through like butter. And here towards the end is where you're going to have some problems. Now, I've bent it a little bit, and you can bend it back out. You want to try to avoid, again, bending this thing as much as you possibly can. Next thing we're going to do is cut away the top portion, and you want the top to fit into the bottom perfectly. So what I mean by perfectly is realize that on the bottom here you have a section that goes inward at the very bottom of the can. So where you're cutting the top portion of the can to is right prior to this crease where it starts to bend in. And then of course the top portion of the can where the crease starts to bend back in, or it starts to go in or go concave or whatever you want to call, is going to meet the top of the bottom, if that makes sense. So the bottom of the top is going to meet the bottom of the bottom and the top of the bottom is going to meet the top crease of the top. So we have to measure that accurately, and there's really no good way to do this. What I do is I take my Sharpie again, mark the bottom, move it, mark it, move it, mark it, and just do this all the way around. You'll see that your marks are going to be right next to each other. So you can see they're relatively close. I'm going to want to cut above these lines, and I'm going to use a pair of scissors. What I recommend that you do is you cut into where you're going to cut at a 45-degree angle, just like I'm showing you here. You cut to that point, all right? And then you come around to the other side and start on the sharp side and cut your way around. So we're going to get it in there, and we're going to start working our cut around the base of this thing with our pair of scissors. Yeah, you cut her all the way around, and I have a little bit of an uneven portion here, so I'm going to cut that piece off as well. So there is the top portion. Take our fingers and stick them inside of the top of the can like this. And I'm going to take the dull portion of the scissors, not the sharp side, because there is a sharp side. I'm going to take the duller side, which is usually the rounded end. And I'm going to use this to crease. Now, this is very intricate here. What you're going to be doing is creasing down in between your fingers hard towards the bottom portion of the top, and then just a light crease on top to make a little air vent. So hard towards here and light up here. And you see I leave a crease. Now you want to move over one finger length and do the same thing. And you're going to do this all the way around the tin. So you're going to go hard down towards the bottom and just a little light crease towards the top. Now, what these are going to become, the combustion chambers for your alcohol and your alcohol vapors. Burn out the sides from these little vapor pockets that you're creating. And my last one, you can see my fingers, 2 fingers fit in there perfectly. So the fingers, unless you have really small fingers, works out pretty well. At least for me it did. And you're going to have this kind of flower type of design. Now when you get done with this, it should slide right into your bottom portion. You just slide it on in. There you go. And you can file this down a little bit. But there it is. There's your little burner right there. And there's one thing left that we have to do. And the last thing that we need to do is poke a hole in the side. This hole doesn't need to be big. As a matter of fact, it needs to be small. The best thing to use is a really thin thumbtack like I have right here. So a thin thumbtack works great, but you can use your knife. If you're going to use your knife though, put your finger there to support it, and you're going to wiggle. You don't want to cut. You're going to wiggle and turn, kind of like a drill bit, to get just a small pinprick hole in there. Now, as soon as you feel it coming through, then obviously you want to stop. Now, you don't want to put any pressure on the knife, because if you push too hard on the knife, you're going to end up with a cut. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a small hole. With a pin, you can be a little more aggressive because it's small already. And you just want to kind of feel through there until it comes through. Once it comes through, that's really all the hole you need right there, is that little tiny hole. So there's our stove complete. You can see the chambers inside of there and the hole. And what you're basically going to do is place your fluid inside of here, and I'll show you in just a moment, and put your cup right on top of it. Here's my entire unit as I would put it into my 72-hour pack. This is the bottle I have the alcohol in, and again, this is over 90 proof alcohol in here. And of course, here's my stove. The container all goes back into itself, into your little protective container, the container that you use to actually put out the fire. And in my case, it fits right down inside of my cup like this. So my whole mess kit is contained within this cup. I'm doing this inside right now just to show you how long this alcohol burns. And you can see I have a measured container here, and I'm just going to dump my fuel inside of the container, and we're going to boil some water and see how long it takes for this water to boil. I want you to have a good idea of how this works. Now, again, if you don't want to do any of this stuff inside, you need to be ready to put this fire out, and I am. You need to have an extinguisher around, and I do. I'm ready to go. But I want to just show you how this whole thing works. So I'm dumping the fuel in, and I'm dumping enough in there just to cover the concave portion of the top. And you can see how much is left in the little jar. There's not, I used maybe a little under half of it. And put the lid on it again because it is alcohol. Place it right on top. And we're going to start the clock. There we go. You can see underneath how it's burning, and it's coming out of those little pockets that we made that I showed you how to make with the scissors. If you take a look on the inside of the cup, it's already pretty hot in there. You can already see the bubbles starting to form. We're at 5 minutes and 38 seconds. We've already got a boil going on. And it is, what we have in here is about 2 cups. My particular camp cup has measuring on the inside right over here. And I've got 16 ounces in there, which is 2 cups. Pretty nice little system here. The important thing now is how to put this thing out. Like I said, you can't blow on this. You have to take the oxygen away. So again, what I've got is the contained unit, the packing unit that I'm using. It's plastic. I'm just going to place that sucker right over the top and kill the flame. And it's done. All right. Now, another nice feature about this whole thing is the fact that this thing cools off really quick. So I'm touching it. It's hot, but it cools off relatively fast. I probably used, I want to say maybe half of the fuel that I dumped in there. However, I'm going to show it to you as soon as we pull this apart. And you can just pull this right apart like that. And then you're going to go ahead and take your container that you have your fuel in. And you saw where the level was. I'll remind you, there's the level. And you just dump the unused portion of fuel back inside of your container. Now, there is how much fuel I used. So I used about 1/4 of this in 5 minutes. So this whole thing is going to give me 20 minutes of burn time. 20 to 30 minutes of burn time, this little container. So that is 4 to 5 meals, hot meals. And if you have 1 hot meal a day, that's 4 to 5 hot meals in your 72-hour pack. You can, of course, carry a larger container and have more fuel in it, but in your 72-hour bag, you want to keep your stuff down to a minimum and keep that bag as light as you possibly can. But with that, thank you very much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and God bless you.